I remember well my shy mark. One day while stretching out to him my youthful foot. Isn't it awfully hard to do, Mr. Gessler or Jessler, whatever? And his answer, given with a sudden smile from out of the sardonic redness of his beard. It is an art. Himself, he was little as if made from leather, with his yellow, crinkly face and crinkly reddish hair and beard, and neat folds slanting down his cheeks to the corners of his mouth, and his guttural and one-toned voice, for leather is a sardonic substance and stiff and slow of purpose, and that was the character of his face, save that his eyes, which were grey-blue, had in them the simple gravity of one secretly possessed by the ideal. His elder brother was so very like him, though watery, paler in every way, with a great industry, that sometimes in early days I was not quite sure of him until the interview was over. Then I knew it was he, if the words "I will ask my brother" had not been spoken, and that if they had, it was his elder brother. When one grew old and wild and ran up bills, and one somehow never ran up with the Gessler brothers, it would not have seemed becoming to go in there and stretch out one's foot to that blue iron spectacle glance, owing him for more than say 2 pairs, just the comfortable reassurance that one will still his client, for it was not possible to go to him very often. His boots lasted terribly, having something beyond the temporary, some as it were essence of boot stitched into them. One went in, not as into most shops, in the mood of "please serve me and let me go," but restfully, as one enters a church, and sitting on the single wooden chair waited, for there was never anybody there. Soon over the top edge of that sort of well, rather dark and smelling soothingly of leather, which formed the shop, there would be seen his face, or that of his elder brother, peering down, a guttural sound and the tip-tap of bast slippers beating the narrow wooden stairs, and he would stand there before one without coat, a little bent in leather apron with sleeves turned back, blinking, as if awakened from some dream of boots, or like an owl surprised in daylight and annoyed in at this interruption. And I would say, "How do you do, Mr. Gressler? Could you make me a pair of Russia leather boots?" Without a word he would leave me, retiring whence he came, or into the other portion of the shop, and I would continue to rest in the wooden chair, inhaling the incense of his trade. Soon he would come back, holding in his thin veined hand a piece of gold brown leather. With his eyes fixed on it, he would remark, "What a beautiful piece." When I too had admired it, he would speak again. When do you want them?" And I would answer, "Oh, as soon as you conveniently can." And he would say, "Tomorrow fortnight," or if he were his elder brother, "I will ask my brother." Then I would murmur, "Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Gessler." "Good morning," he would reply, still looking at the leather in his hand. And as I moved to the door, I would hear the tip-tap of his bast slippers restoring him up the stairs to his dream of boots. But if it were some new kind of footgear that he had not yet made me, then indeed he would observe ceremony, divesting me of my boot and holding it long in his hand, looking at it with eyes at once critical and loving, as if recalling the glow with which he had created it, and rebuking it, the way in which one had disorganized this masterpiece. Then, placing my foot on a piece of paper, he would 2 or 3 times tickle the outer edges with a pencil and pass his nervous fingers over my toes, feeling himself into the heart of my requirements. I cannot forget that day on which I had occasion to say to him, Mr. Gessler, that last pair of town walking boots creaked, you know. He looked at me for a time without replying, as if expecting me to withdraw or qualify the statement, then said, I shouldn't have creaked. It shouldn't have creaked. It did, I'm afraid. You got them wed before they found themselves? I don't think so. At that he lowered his eyes as if hunting for memory of those boots, and I felt sorry I had mentioned this grave thing. Send them back, he said. I will look at them. A feeling of compassion for my creaking boots surged up in me. So well could I imagine the sorrowful long curiosity of this regard which he would bend on them. Zom boots, he said slowly, are bad for bead. If I can do nothing with them, I take them off your bill. Once only, I went absent-mindedly into his shop in a pair of boots bought in an emergency at some large firms. He took my order without showing me any leather, and I could feel his eyes penetrating the inferior integument of my foot. At last he said, "Those are not my boots." The tone was not one of anger, nor of sorrow, not even of contempt, but there was in it something quiet that froze the blood. He put his hand down and pressed a finger on the place where the left boot, endeavoring to be fashionable, was not quite comfortable. Where the left foot, endeavoring to be fashionable, was not quite comfortable. "It hurts you there," he said. Those big bums have no self-respect, trash." And then, as if something had given way within him, he spoke long and bitterly. It was the only time I ever heard him discuss the conditions and hardships of his trade.